months' time? What will our church be like in 6 months' time? Things have changed a lot just in the last 6 months. Over the last few weeks, I've been reading and reflecting on what other people have been saying in this country and around the world about what the church might be like, and about how the church is meant to now respond, or how we're meant to live out the life of Jesus Christ in the next few months. And there's all sorts of different ideas. Some people say we should get rid of live streaming because live streaming is sort of an encouragement for people just to watch at home and they're not going to come together. Others are saying that the church needs to work out where we're going in terms of our mission over the next 6 months, otherwise the church might be irrelevant. I think the life of St. Aloysius, who we celebrate today, and who is our parish saint, I think has a lot to say for us. Over the last few months, just in Italy alone, as of yesterday, 35,000 people had died of coronavirus in Italy. In 1591, 60,000 Italians died during the pandemic in that year. 60,000, and one of them was St. Aloysius. He was 23 years old when he died. And his story, in the years after that pandemic, when Italy started to rebuild, they looked to this life, the life of St. Aloysius, and it became a source of inspiration for the community of their time. And I think, having looked at the life of St. Aloysius, I think his life can give us some guidance for where we're meant to be going over the next 6 months, the next 12 months, the next 18 months. St. Aloysius grew up in a place called Gonzaga in sort of central northern Italy. Came from a very wealthy family. His family had expectations that he was going to go on and become something of great significance, perhaps a military life, perhaps something else. But interestingly, as his life went along, he had a number of moments where he had deep, intense experiences of prayer. And I think that became something that communities turned back to after that pandemic. Spending moments in quiet, silent prayer with our God. Trying to work out, trying to grieve, trying to just live through a particular day. We know that mental health is going to be a big issue going forward over the next 12 months or longer. We know it's been already over the last few months already. And it was at the time of St. Aloysius as well. He spent time in silent prayer, in reflection, and that was an inspiration for others. During his life, he was able to encounter a number of other people who became saints as well. He received First Holy Communion from a guy called St. Charles Borromeo. He was the Archbishop of Milan, not that far from Gonzaga. He met another guy who became his spiritual director, his confessor, a guy by the name of Robert Bellarmine, who became a saint as well. St. Aloysius, from a young age, wanted to become a missionary. And he was convinced that the life of Christ isn't just to be lived at home. We need to go out into the world and do something. And he heard about St. Francis Xavier doing great work in India. And he said, I want to do that too. And so as a teenager, he put his heart was set on going to India to become a missionary there. He wanted to become a Jesuit and then be sent to India to do missionary work. His family weren't so impressed with this idea. But he thought, this is what God is asking me to do. So I think there's two things already we can learn, I think, from St. Aloysius for where we are and where we're going. Firstly, St. Aloysius treasured moments of silent prayer. And we need that at the moment. Our world needs that. If you see someone or hear someone or talk to someone who's struggling, and all of us are struggling in different ways, ask them to just come and spend 10 minutes just in silence in the church. The church is open every day, open especially Sunday afternoons between 3 and 5, to just have some silent prayer. And St. Aloysius loved that, and that helped his community after his life in rebuilding. And secondly, St. Aloysius had a passion for mission. He wanted to go and do something great for God. How are we going to rebuild the church? How are we going to rebuild the world? if we all stay at home and say the world is too dangerous to do anything, and we don't allow us to have a passion to go and do something good for God and our world, then we're going to be in trouble in all sorts of ways. Yes, we need to take measures to make sure we're safe. We need to have distancing. But we also need to have a passion for mission. So if you haven't got a passion to do something great today or do something great in the weeks or the months ahead, pray today you'll be inspired by the life of St. Aloysius, that you will want to do something great as well. St. Aloysius also had a love for knowledge. He wanted to study the scriptures, and he studied the scriptures intensely. He reflected and wrote about this gospel we had today, which is the greatest commandment of the law. And he reflected on this, he wrote about this. And I think that's part of the journey for us going forward as well. We need to continue to study, all of us. Reflect on the scriptures, reflect on what God's asking us to do at this particular moment in time. St. Aloysius was only young, 23 when he died, but he encouraged a whole movement of people, especially through the example that he gave to St. Robert Bellarmine, who became his confessor. But St. Robert Bellarmine, after the death of St. Aloysius, then became a great enthusiast for adult education for all people, not just for religious. Every single person needs to be able to read the scriptures and to reflect on it in their life today. And that's for all of us. And then it's quite interesting what happened in 1591. St. Aloysius was a Jesuit student. He was studying to be a priest for that mission that he wanted to do in India. And he was going to studies at the Jesuit university. And as he was going to studies from the house to the university, he saw people who were on the street who were sick. And people had abandoned them. And he said, I can't abandon them. I can't walk by and ignore the fact that this person needs help. And so he picked up these people who were sick. He tended to them and he took them to the hospital. It reminds me of another story that Jesus told, the story of the Good Samaritan. And he did this over and over again. And eventually his superior says, we ban you from doing this. You're going to get sick, you're going to die. And he said, I'll try. The next day he goes and more people are sick. And he tries, he wants to walk on as he was told to. And he said, no, I can't ignore the fact that these people are sick and in need. And so he picks them up and he takes them to the hospitals. He provides them some food. He provides them the love of Christ. St. Aloysius died of the pandemic himself, which he caught from helping others. Truly courageous. Perhaps some would say he was a bit silly. He should have followed the advice of his superiors. But then Jesus Christ asks us, if there's someone in need, do what we can. St. Mary of the Cross MacKillop, our Australian saint, said, never see a need without doing something about it. St. Aloysius knew that. He was only 23 years old when he died. He was a young man. Our parish in 1924 was named after St. Aloysius. This is a young area, still lots of young people. We have so many young in our school, in all sorts of schools in our area. And they named this parish after St. Aloysius. He has a passion for mission. He has a passion for education, especially for the young. He has a passion for that silent prayer. And he's a great witness of active service and charity. What's the church going to be like in 6 months' time? Let's commit to living the way of Jesus Christ with the inspiration of St. Aloysius. Let's commit again to mission. Let's commit again to studying the scriptures, bringing it to life for us today. Let's commit again to silent prayer. And let's commit to being people of service and charity. St. Aloysius, pray for us.